Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Buck the System. I'm your host, David West, and today is probably going to be a pretty short episode. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update into the situation with Cassie Dutra, a local transphobic teacher who left-wing activists have been going after and trying to get fired, as well as an update into Brad Smith, the bullying slug-like journalist who has been going after her, as well as Brad's close associate, Darby Ayers-Flood, the lesbian mayor of Talent, who is a big-time lefty, and from what we're going to get into here, apparently doesn't care too much about people being extremely nasty bullies to people who could easily be her constituents. Just to kind of give you guys a refresher, what happened was at the end of February, I think it all started on February 26th, Cassie Dutra, a special education teaching assistant at Talent Elementary School in Southern Oregon, said this on a Facebook news article about the Equality Act. "This is such stupidity. Okay, so I identify as a cat. Give me my special rights that I deserve because I've been discriminated against by all the dogs in my community." Pretty benign comment, but it didn't take long. In fact, it literally only took a matter of minutes for opportunistic local left-wing journalist Brad Smith to pounce on her and start attacking her and calling her a bigot and a transphobe and get out a breaking news story on his little podunk blog. Eventually, that led to a local CBS affiliate, KTVL 10 in Medford, Oregon, doing a news story about the situation.
A parent of a special needs student upset after a teaching assistant at Talent Elementary made a transphobic comment on public Facebook post. News 10's Kevin McNamara spoke to the parent and the school district today.
It could be potentially lethal to young queer youth reading opinions from educators, making fun of their identities. A person who is unable to respect the basic identities of people should not be working with our precious youth, especially our wonderful, gifted children that enter that program.
Thoreau, who declined to be interviewed on camera for fear of harassment, says it's not about having a different opinion, it's about the added care needed from an educator.
If this person were operating in a position where they are in their own private home with their own, rules, they can do whatever they want. But when you become, either a public service agent or take on the role of being an educator, you have professional and ethical obligation.
The Phoenix Talent School District said they could not comment on internal personnel matters, but put out a statement which read, quote, "We will continue to work with our employees, our associations, and the community in providing a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment for all students, staff, and families." In Jackson County, Kevin McNamara, News 10.
I made a whole big video expose about 45 minutes long. You can find the link to that in the info section of this video. And I made this video to expose how these people were all left-wing activists and how some of them, Brad Smith in particular, were just enormous bullies. And now, ever since I made that video, I've been sort of, off and on working on a follow-up video where I wanted to update you guys about the situation with Cassie Dutra. So I set to work trying to figure out what exactly was going on with her. In the course of this search for information about what's going on with Cassie Dutra and her employment status, I reached out to the Phoenix Talent School District and ended up being put in touch with Javier Del Rio, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Human Resources. And I left him several messages. I think I left him 2 or 3 voicemails on his work phone, as well as, I believe, 2 written notes / requests for comment with his secretary. And I never heard back from him. That was over the course of about a week. I kept reaching out. I feel personally like the school has a little bit of responsibility to let the public know what is going on there, since they decided to bend the knee to these, muckraking leftists. But I couldn't get any comment. So eventually, I had to call Javier Del Rio with a phone number that I found for him online, which I presume is his personal cell phone. And I don't think he liked that very much because very shortly after that, I think it was within the hour, I received an email from him, finally. And the email read, "Dear David, thank you for reaching out to us. The district's primary commitment is to provide a supportive structure for students to be successful. We do not comment on individual personnel issues. Take care, Javier." I found that kind of funny. It's like the consummate politician type email, just saying a whole lot of nothing. This sort of put me in a bit of a pickle. I really didn't know exactly where to go and how to get information about this situation from here. For those of you wondering why I didn't just contact Cassie Dutra directly to try to get comment on this, I really can't do that. I don't want to drag her into this. You know, she's an innocent woman as far as I'm concerned who's being dragged through the mud by a bunch of leftist bullies. I don't want to give them more ammo, and I don't want to do anything that could jeopardize her employment further. So that wasn't really an option. So I had to get creative. And at that point, sort of the only option I was left with was sending out emails to other people at the school. So I reached out to a dozen or so people at the school, mostly people who I found who seemed to have special education related jobs, since that's the field that Cassie Dutra worked in. I just got on the Phoenix Talent Elementary School teacher or staff directory and reached out to everybody who seemed potentially relevant. Wrote an email to them and, told them, I'm curious what you guys think of this. I'm looking to know more information. I'm an independent filmmaker and, sometimes investigative journalist. And I'm happy to protect your anonymity if you want to comment. And I got a couple responses back that seemed they seemed like they were told more or less what to say. They were both basically derivative of "don't contact me again." And they both had several other people like Javier Del Rio and some other HR type people at the schools CC'd in the email. So I got a couple of those responses back. But long story short, I did learn some things. And I don't have a ton of information that I can share at this point, but here are the major points. So Cassie Dutra has not been fired. As of right now, she still has a job and is still employed by the school district. However, she has been removed from teaching duties and removed from the classroom that before now she always worked in ever since February 26th when she made these comments. She has been removed from her teaching duties and placed on some kind of like administrative work. She's doing something else. I'm not sure exactly what, but she is not working in a classroom. She is not teaching. And that appears to be sort of an indefinite thing while the school continues investigating the situation and trying to work something out. How that will all resolve in the end, I don't know. I hope to update you on it again in the future. But as of right now, she hasn't lost her job. She has just been removed from teaching duties, which I think basically counts as the school punishing her. I think it's pretty hard to make a case that it isn't. I think if the school wasn't punishing her at all, this would have been over in a matter of days. And really, the schools, what they should have done is said, basically, go pound sand to these lefties and just ignored what they had to say, because these are not serious people. And we as a society should not be giving them as much power as we're giving them. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the fun stuff. So not long after I put out my video, that's actually kind of an understatement, almost immediately after I put out my video, judging by the timeline, it actually sort of looked like Brad Smith had watched the video as it premiered on YouTube, been horrified by some of the things he saw, and almost immediately put out a sort of apology. I think that he published this within the hour of the initial premiere of my video on YouTube ending. So here's what Brad Smith had to say almost immediately after I put out my video and he had watched it, or at least watched a good chunk of it. He wrote on his Rogue Free press group, "A few things I have to say. Yes, I'm a jerk sometimes. I am. Have I done some stupid things? I have. Mea culpa. I'm not perfect. I screw up. I have, and I have to do better. Nietzsche was right when he said, "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster, for when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you." In fighting some of the monsters, I myself have become a monster, and I've let people down. For that, I'm sorry. What does this mean? I'm still write articles on racism, transphobia, extremism of all forms, but I can't become as bad as the people I write about. I've gazed into that abyss for a long time, and, well, it's time for a change. I've let people down. For that, I'm sorry. But I also know that I've done some good work, and it's time to let that stand on its own. Life's learning curve, and here I am. It's not easy. I just watched someone attack a very decent woman and mother. I'm very angry. There's a lot I want to say and do, none of it pleasant. Long story short, I have a speech impediment. I put up with a lot, and I told myself that no one should have to go through that. So I fight for those who need help, and in doing so, I've become overzealous, and, well, here I am, looking into that abyss again. I'm not emulating that monster again. I'm letting his actions be his undoing and not mine. Cassie Dutra did something that was wrong. I stand by it. I was wrong, however, to engage with certain individuals. That was improper, and, well, it's time for change. Mea culpa. I'm stepping back from the abyss. I offer my apologies and focus on the good work. And there's so much work that has to be done. Transgender kids need help. The homeless need a safe place, and fire survivors need an advocate. Those things and others, that's important. As for the monsters, once they're exposed, it's time for move on and focus on the next article. I started the Rogue Free Press for all the right reasons, and I need to focus on those reasons. And I intend to do that. Now, from the get-go, I tried to give Brad the benefit of the doubt that maybe he would, apologize to some people and actually try to right some of the wrongs he'd done and be less of a bully. But given what he wrote and how it's basically a bunch of excuses for how he behaved instead of really owning up to it, I had a feeling it wasn't exactly a sincere apology. And unsurprisingly, it turned out that that was pretty much the case, because it started to look pretty quickly that Brad Smith wasn't so much sorry about what he had done as he was sorry that he had gotten caught doing it. Within a matter of hours, Brad had pretty much already reneged on what he was saying and, seemingly admitted to the world that he was just going to go hide again where he isn't compromised and caught saying nasty things. So on his Rogue Free Press page, he posted this. So after some deliberation, we will be shutting down this group and starting a new one. Tonight, I saw someone, a wonderful human being and mother, attacked by a bully who was assisted by a person or two in this group. I started this group as a safe place for like-minded individuals. It's been compromised. Fine, we'll start anew. Those wishing to remain, please message or friend me. The new group will be up and running soon. If you're wondering what Brad keeps referring to when he says he saw someone, a wonderful human being and mother, attacked by a bully, he is referring to Galen Thoreau, the woman who called into KTVL to say that she would not place her special needs child in Talent Elementary until Cassie Dutra was gone. In my video, I found Galen Thoreau because, surprise, surprise, she has an extremely unique name and was not hard to track down. And I think I made a very compelling case that she is clearly a radical, far-left LGBT activist. I find it really funny that Brad and his cronies keep trying to act like I was some kind of terrible, evil person for doxing Galen. Because all that I really did was look her up on Facebook, find her, and share publicly available photos. So it's really funny that they would act like that's doxing and that's bad and that's bullying and that's harassment. Because they did the exact same thing to Cassie Dutra. They took a public Facebook comment and they didn't even just share it. they blew it up into a giant local news story that was seen by presumably tens of thousands of people. Whereas I, in response to that, took someone who didn't make a public Facebook comment, but rather called into a public news broadcast that was being seen by thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, and looked her up and talked about her a little bit more using publicly available information. So if anything, what they did was far closer to doxing than what I did. Now, I know the actual definition of doxing, and I do not consider what either of us did to be doxing. We used publicly available, not particularly personal information in what we did. But it just shows how hypocritical these people are. They will use any cheap shot that they can to try to get their way. They'll try to act like, I'm an evil doxer, and I'm doing such terrible things, and I'm being a bully, when what they did could be much more reasonably argued to be an invasion of Cassie Dutra's privacy than what I did to Galen Thoreau could be. So anyway, soon after that, Brad made a new group called the Rogue Free Press Group. And whereas the other group had, I think, around 480 members at the time that it was taken down, this one, currently roughly a month after its creation, has 215 members. So I guess Brad has been a little bit pickier about who he lets into the group. Unfortunately for Brad, he has a lot of enemies, and it was not very hard for me to find people in the group willing to share screen grabs. So here's a guy asking, did something happen to the other group? And Brad Smith responding, David and Cassie West managed to get spy in the group. So starting fresh. Well, Brad, as it turns out, I now have spies in the group, and far, far more than I did last time. Now, there actually hasn't really been a whole lot of interest that has happened in this group. It's pretty quiet. No one's really talking about anything. Brad seems to have backed off from attacking me because I think he realized it wasn't working out very well for him. But very shortly after the group was started, there were a couple of interesting posts. So this is a comment from Edie Westcott, who is Brad's wife. She wrote within an hour or two, I think, of the creation of the new group. I don't say much on Rogue Free Press because I'm more of a behind-the-scenes person, but I want to express a couple things in light of recent issues. First, I want to sincerely thank those who are sticking with us through this bump. I don't want to give any credit to the individuals attempting to derail us other than that. Unfortunately, negative press and outright lies attract attention on social media. I have not made a single outright lie. I challenge you to point to anything I have said that is an outright lie. In fact, I challenge you to point to anything I've said that is even untrue. So for those who choose to rally behind Brad, Rogue Free Press, and the work we are focused on and committed to, I thank you. What I hope to see is more of that, because I know Brad's heart and his goals. His apology is sincere, as is his commitment to moving forward in a more positive and therefore effective manner. Brad is an amazing investigative writer, and his level of focus and devotion to his work is one of the things I admire most about him. Right now, he needs allies. The behavior he has apologized for, in my opinion, in no way overshadows the amazing work he's doing and the solid ally he is to Black, Indigenous people of color, LGBTQ+, and others. Yeah, okay, great. His wife thinks his bullying of other women and other people's wives doesn't overshadow the work he's doing, because this is not a biased source at all. His voice is needed, is relevant, and is fearless. If you could only hear some of the voicemail he gets because he calls people out for their bigotry, it is unsettling. You know what I think's unsettling are the messages that Brad Smith leaves for other people when he gets angry at them. But he would never post them or bring this up publicly because he has always wanted to tell the story, not be the story. And he persists despite the threats of harm, despite the rabid hatred. I think one of his biggest regrets with this recent incident is that in allowing his anger towards people who spew hate and are stalwart in their bigotry, he unwittingly became the story. He never wanted that, and he certainly never wanted to jeopardize any connections in the community or anyone's work towards equality and equity. So I'm thanking those who have stayed. I'm also asking for help in building us back stronger and better than before. All Brad can do now is move forward and allow his work to speak for itself. Otherwise, hate wins. I find it kind of funny that, she's acting like he just got a little carried away and was mean to some bigots. He was horrifically cruel to a lot of people over a fairly long period of time. I have screen grabs of him saying nasty things dating back at least a year or so. This is not a new thing. This has been an ongoing thing with him. He has been sort of a notorious bully to people in the Rogue Valley who he has political disagreements with for a long time. And ever since I made the video, I have had people coming out of the woodwork to reach out to me and tell me more and more and more about Brad. I'm not going to get into too much of that in this video, but potentially in the future we will. Suffice to say, Brad has made a lot of enemies for himself, which is exactly why it was so easy to infiltrate his new group and get this good stuff. So towards the end here, Edie talks about thank you to those who have stayed. And there's one person who stayed who I think you guys will be very interested to hear from. That person is none other than Darby Ayers-Flood, the lesbian left-wing mayor of Talent, Oregon herself. In response to that post of Edie's, Darby commented this: "Thank you for this, Edie. It isn't a secret for South Valley folks who know me well that Brad has been a family friend for over 25 years. My mother is particularly fond of him. He is almost like family. His work has always been fun to follow, looking back as far as I can remember to some pretty good news outlets. When he struck out on his own on a Facebook/blog outlet, I was truly excited for the progressive voice where my personal politics lie. I see his good writing skills as one of the many articulate voices for the marginalized, a voice for equity, a voice for justice. I value Brad, especially as he commits to abandon the argumentative, often bully fests in the futile Facebook battle rooms, which are literally killing the conversations. I will say, however, that I find it completely ironic that a recent YouTuber broadcasting from his artillery bunker, wonder who that could be, and Mallory is a reference to this guy, Ryan Mallory. I think he runs like some scanner groups and stuff on Facebook. He's just another guy who's had some run-ins with Brad over the years. Are working up a campaign to call out Brad as a bully with righteous impunity. Dudes, all y'all can be a bunch of chest-pounding, hot-air windbags when you meet up for Facebook war games, but Brad doesn't bring real guns to the party. To Brad, I say, good on you for standing up and calling yourself out for the good of the important discussions. Looking forward to more of your good work, revealing the racism that exists here at home, the inequity so many suffer, and how we can correct our course. Where do I sign in?" Given everything that she just wrote, I think it is safe to say that Darby Ayers-Flood is fully in Brad Smith's corner and does not particularly care about how horrible and abusive he was being to people. She was fully ready for him to just move on and get to the next thing within like a couple hours of the video exposing a bunch of bullying that I'm sure she didn't know about previously. I mean, it sounds like they're actually even closer friends and associates than I had assumed when I made my last video. If you remember, in my last video, I pointed out that something like a third of Brad's 480 or so Facebook group were added to the group to follow his journalistic endeavors by Darby Ayers-Flood. That was basically my accusation in that video, was that Darby was enabling Brad and helping him build a platform. Now that I can see that she is basically completely okay with what Brad did and with him continuing on and not really doing more than, a few minutes of soul searching, she's definitely enabling him even more than I thought she was. She seems to flat out love what he's doing. She seems to agree with him on pretty much everything. From what she said, where she talked about, I was truly excited for the progressive voice where my personal politics lie. Sounds like she maybe kind of plays the political game a little bit and doesn't publicly let on just how left-wing she is. And so she's happy to have people like Brad out there doing that kind of dirty work for her and getting that really nasty, radical left-wing, let's gender transition children kind of ideology out there. I mean, she ends her message with, "Where do I sign in?" She is fully on board with this jerk. You would think that a public official would be a little bit more careful about endorsing somebody who was just outed hours earlier as a massive bully, someone who was liking posts encouraging women he disagreed with to kill themselves, and cruelly mocking recovering drug addicts by bringing up their past to them, and calling innocent women whores because he was having a fight with their husbands. Just a nasty, nasty dude. But Darby doesn't seem to care about fully endorsing him and helping him. It's not particularly relevant to any of this, but I do find it funny that they bring up my artillery bunker and talk about how Brad doesn't bring real guns to the party. I get that a lot when I get in a debate with a left-winger or expose them on my channel or, debunk something they said. I get them being like, "Wow, is that some kind of veiled threat?" And I'm like, no, I needed to build a gun room because I have a lot of guns, and I wanted to build a live streaming studio / audio booth. So it just made sense to combine the two, and it gave me a cool backdrop. It's a conversation starter, and I built this like a year and a half before I ever got into this argument with you. So why are you so self-centered and thinking that everything I do has to do with you? I've been broadcasting from here for over a year at this point. I did not just line up all my guns as some kind of weird threat to you. I mean, that'd be weird anyway, because I'm not afraid of these people in the slightest. These are some of the most weak and ineffectual people I have ever come across. Anyway, that about wraps everything up. I wanted to keep this episode kind of short. I just thought that you all should know what is going on with Cassie Dutra, and that the mayor of a local town has no problem at all with the kind of things that Brad Smith does. So hopefully we can all work together and make sure that this woman will never be elected again going forward. For all of my fans who are in the Rogue Valley, if you know anyone who lives in Talent, anyone who would be a voter there, definitely send this video to them. I think that people need to know what Darby is saying and how she's behaving and the kind of behaviors that she's essentially endorsing in Brad Smith. So please post this far and wide on Facebook, share it with all your friends in Talent, share it with all your friends around the Rogue Valley, share it with your friends outside of the Rogue Valley. I think that even if you don't live here and this doesn't, directly have anything to do with you, it is good to know the kind of behavior that we see from a lot of these kind of duplicitous left-wing activists and elected officials. All that said, I hope that you guys will all go and have a good Easter. I hope that you will remember why we celebrate Easter and why that is so important to us and so important to humanity. And hope you'll enjoy the nice weather if that's what you're having. I know we've been having some here. I'm not entirely sure when I will be back with more videos, but hopefully it will be soon. I have been working a lot lately, and that has been sort of keeping me from making videos. But as always, I hope to be doing this more regularly. Talk to you guys all soon. Take care. Bye.